Hi, welcome to Further Adventures in Technology with me, your host, Philip Martin. Yes, this is OnFilm, and we are quickly approaching 200 days of lockdown. I think it is now day 197 by my count, which is it may be less for you, fewer days for you, because that goes back to March 12th, which is just a convenient date for me to remember because it's my wife's birthday. And that's about the time that we started being careful. I think that was my last day in the office. So that's where we measure from, day 197. I don't see normalcy around the corner, though it seems like a lot of people are exhausted by all this, and some people are. I'm not wearing pants, no. I've got shorts on today. I did not bother to do what I normally do, which is make an effort. I tried to make an effort. I want to tell you about making an effort and about adventures in technology. As some of you know, I teach this class. Teaching is too big a word, but I lead this class, this movie appreciation film studies class for LifeQuest of Arkansas. We're doing it Friday mornings this term, the fall term. And we're doing it via Zoom, okay? So people are looking basically at this screen because this is my setup. I've got my camera there. And, this is my static thing. I could do this on an iPad and move it around or whatever, but this is, where I do it. So anyway, I'm using Zoom, and everything I've read about Zoom says it does not know what screen you're sharing when you share your screen. And therefore, you're able to share everything you want to share. Except when I tried it. And I tried it in some, trial runs, and it worked fine. But when I tried to share my screen, like I was actually trying to show the film A Face in a Crowd, Elia Kazan. And every time I would click over to share my screen, it would be black. Sometimes we could have the sound, and sometimes we wouldn't. But it was like, the screen was blacked out. And so that didn't work. So I dumped that real quick, and I tried to put a DVD in, and I put the DVD player on, and we started playing that. And I got a gray screen. And so I've been playing around since then. And the class was a disaster, basically. I went to YouTube, and yes, I could play YouTube videos on Zoom, but nothing else. So hive mind, if you're out there and you have some, because I know it's possible, because I know people who are taking film classes who are watching movies via Zoom. But I don't know if it's in my setup, if it's a special license I have to get from Zoom. I can't find anything on their website that says that. If it's, why I can't do it, I don't know. So if anybody out there has any idea, please, let me know. So this is just one other area I'm asking this, and I'm asking this on my social media and all that. I want to put my coffee cup around the right way so you can see the 200th anniversary. Anyway, this is a interesting week for the movies, and I have to say, as I sit here right now, I have not seen either of these movies I'm going to talk about, which is kind of bad form, because I don't like to review movies I haven't seen yet, though I will say that newspaper convention has required me to do that, 2 or 3 times a year for the past 25 years, when I've done fall previews, and I've done, well, I'm not Keith Richards, by the way, this is my mask, so I just wear it here, and then so I don't forget it if I leave the house, and I have it. That's just, I'm not doing this for fashion, though maybe it'll catch on. I'll do a fall preview, I'll do a summer preview, and I'll say, wisecracks about movies I haven't seen. I just look at the little description, see who's in them, see who's directing, see what studio's putting them out, when they're putting them out, and you can come up with some sort of idea about what the films are. The caveat is you could be completely wrong about those films, and often we are. Some things sound really good on paper and turn out to be awful. Other things just sound kind of ordinary and are not ordinary at all. So keep in mind, I don't like to do that, but since I, do it sometimes, I guess I can do it in my little new movies column, I guess. But the thing about these two movies is they feature one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite actor to watch, a man named Richard Jenkins, who was in a movie called The Visitor years ago. God, and before that he was in 6 Feet Under on HBO, and he's been in 1,000 movies probably. He's a very nondescript looking man. Now he's in his late 60s, I guess. I guess he's a little older than I am. I've met him once, had a really, long, probably hour-long interview with him, and he struck me as a very genuine, very nice human being, and someone who's very serious about his work. And I'm always interested to see what he does, because he not only is a good actor no matter what role he's playing, he's also an actor who's very careful about the type of roles he takes on. So, it's not like he, just has to work and just takes whatever is available. And it's very rare that he will have two movies coming out in the same week. And the most interesting one, I think, is The Last Shift, which is done by, I should have notes here, a guy named Cohen. Amos Cohen? Is it Amos Cohen? A documentary maker. Andrew Cohen. Sorry, Mr. Cohen. I've seen some of his documentaries, and he's sort of like an American Ken Loach, if you get what I'm saying. He is very much interested in the underclass, this nation's permanent underclass, and how they get through their days, day by day. And this is set in a fast food restaurant on the last night of Richard Jenkins' character's shift. He's been there 38 years. He went there straight out of high school. He was kind of a high school athlete. I probably hurt himself or something, but he didn't go any. He didn't ever left his little Rust Belt town. He stayed there and worked for 38 years in this company, having his wages raised from, I don't know what it would have been, whatever the minimum wage was when he started, and now the minimum wage when he leaves. This could be, saw something that said went from $3.10 an hour to $13 an hour, but I'm suspicious of that because having lived in that era, I know that if he started right after he got out of high school in the early 70s, he was probably making closer to $1.75 an hour, but I don't know. But anyway, and I don't know the time frame. It may be set in 2008 or something like that too. So I don't know. But it's a very interesting idea to write about this through this sort of micro kind of hyper focus on maybe this actually is about the last shift, and maybe it will proceed more or less in real time in his relationship with his replacement, who is a young black man who has got some potential but has been thwarted. He's been arrested for doing things that young black men get arrested for. We can, like I said, I haven't watched the movie, so I can't really comment on that. But it's an interesting setup, it's an interesting dynamic, and I trust Richard Jenkins implicitly with these kinds of roles because he's very humanistic and he understands, and his character is probably not a nice man. He's probably not an exceptionally smart or exceptionally able, capable human being. I'm sure that he's got, but I'm also determined. I'm also, convinced that if anybody could play this sort of character and make him a well-rounded, three-dimensional human seeming creation, it would be Richard Jenkins. And it's always interesting when a journalist, which I would count documentary makers as, I think most of them are qualify as journalists. They would say so, and I've seen some of Mr. Cohen's work, and I think it's very good. But I also think that sometimes we journalists have a problem moving from just the facts kind of delivery to filling out something, to giving something else about a character, something other than his poverty, something other than his situation. So it will be interesting because I think that Jenkins is going to have to supply that. Again, conjecture. It's conjecture. It's a review of a movie I haven't seen. So we're going to see how that works. And I'm definitely going to see this movie this weekend. So that's one ticket you won't be able to get because I will have it. I will go to this movie, definitely. The second Richard Jenkins and Deborah Winger and Rachel Evan Wood, which makes it kind of almost a blockbuster. And Piers Marchant saw this movie back in Sundance, so he's going to write it up for us this week. It's called Cajillionaire, and it's by a performance artist named Miranda July, whose movies I've watched her two previous films, and I like them, but they don't quite work. If you understand what I mean, there's things I like about them, and that she takes a lot of chances. She's very adventurous as a writer, but they don't really work. And the synopsis of this movie, which has Richard Jenkins and Deborah Winger as a married couple who are getting by, again, on the margins of society, sort of like, it sounds to me a lot like Shoplifters, or maybe even Parasite, where, they're basically these people who live off these little scams, where they're skimming, which is an actual thing they say they do, where they're skimming things off the margins of society to live on, and living in an office cubicle or something like that, according to the reviews I've read. And I'll have to wait for Piers to get the real review for us. But it's another interesting premise. And again, July's movies have always sort of been uncomfortable to me. They don't really seem to fit into any sort of, they're kind of comic, but they're not that funny, and they're kind of serious, but sometimes there's a little bit of a misfire there that doesn't really lock in to what I think of as truly good drama. It's a little quirky for quirky's sake, whimsy for whimsy's sake. It's a little bit out there. But again, I'm looking at the cast. I'm looking at Deborah Winger, who's one of my favorite actresses, and I'm looking at Richard Jenkins, who's one of my favorite actors. And they both tend to supply things to their character that maybe isn't on the page. So this could be, and the reviews for this have generally been pretty good. So, and you grow as a filmmaker. The more films you make, the more you learn, the better you become. And July is not a documentarian. She's more a poet. And I can't help but think it would have been nice. The films that really hit my sweet spot are the ones that just, would be like collaborations between Andrew Cohen and Miranda July. That might really be what I'm wanting to see. But anyway, these are what it's out there. I think in Cabot they're opening a movie called Fatima about the it's a documentary about the legends and the miracles and all that. So you might want to, if you're up there, you might want to drop in on that. That's also playing. I think it's available on demand and stuff like that. I saw a couple of films this week that. Again, these are actually films I saw, so these are actual reviews. One is called Snow Babies, and I'm going to get the information for Snow Babies up. Snow Babies, it must be this person's first film. Let me see. Yeah, it's a heroin addiction movie, and it's about two teenage girls who have this sort of privileged upbringing in this really kind of nice suburb of this sort of every town USA. And I hate when they're not specific about that because you can't really tell where. In fact, I'm going to look up right now where this thing was filmed, if it will tell me. Well, IMDb does not say where it was filmed, so you know. But anyway, it's about these two young girls, and they seem to have everything, but they are on heroin. They are addicted to heroin, and one got addicted to heroin because she took an OxyContin pill, and then it was easy to get the $10 heroin rather than spend all the money on Oxy, which probably is a reality, and probably is. The thing about Snow Babies, it's a movie that's very, very good as long as it's not trying to do anything except establish a milieu, to show the relationship between these two characters, the way they fit into their high school. There's a lot of good performances, and I'm not going to name the one bad one. There's one really bad kind of stiff performance that just stands out. But really, most of the performances are very good. They're very subtle and kind of... But then when it has to do something, when it has to start doing something, it's like the writer doesn't quite understand how to make things happen without jerking you back and forth. And there's a lot of implausibilities that come in there, and a lot of, cliched things and tropish stuff that sneaks into the film, especially starting about the midway point. I was really intrigued with this up until about the midway point because I thought, well, this is a really good kind of, portrait of what it's like to be a high school kid today. And maybe it's not, but I'm not in high school, I don't know. But it seemed to me to be, doing pretty well. And then the last hour, but the third act especially, it just falls apart. And everything that you think is going to happen happens. And some people really like that kind of movie because, I don't know, it reassures them or something. I don't really understand why you would be attracted to a movie that you can predict the last third of. But, some people are, and you like what you like, and I'm not going to, that's the way Hollywood makes its money, is with, these sort of comforting machines that reassure us and tell us that all evil will be redressed and good people will be redeemed, and if a young person dies, it will be sad, but in the end it will actually be uplifting. That sort of thing. Okay. And the other one, Iceland is Best. Good Lord. It's a very much an amiable mess of a movie. I'm going to get it up here too, even though I don't refer to this stuff very much. I don't know anything about anybody who did it, except that it features Judd Nelson as a poetry teacher, which is sort of an important thing. And I have a real strong suspicion that his scenes were filmed in Los Angeles while the rest of the movie was filmed in Iceland, because it's the real reason to watch it is the cinematography. The cinematography on this thing is, but I mean, you're shooting in Iceland, so that's half of it right there. But the cinematographer, God, I gotta find him. Full cast and crew here. I don't know who this guy is. We're just gonna look him up here. Produced by cinematography Dankura Shinma. Dankura. I am sure he is probably, yes, he's done a lot of films, but nothing you've ever heard of. Iceland is Best is not his first feature, but it's his, maybe third, maybe fourth. Anyway, but it's just gorgeous. I mean, a lot of the scenes are just gorgeous. It's this absurd sort of, shaggy dog story about a pretty young Icelandic woman who really doesn't have any sort of defining character traits other than the fact she's very pretty, who wants to go to California, Topanga specifically, and live there. But she has to go take her poetry class in Reykjavik first. So they travel to Reykjavik to take the poetry class and get on the plane and send her to the U.S. But then this sort of kind of bad dream logic works, and she never, she has to keep going back and forth for various things. And there's a guy who's interested in her who I don't understand why, because she's very dull. And she doesn't even want her poetry read. She just wants to. But anyway, it's frustrating and infuriating, but it's got some very funny lines, some sort of non sequitur funny lines, and if you're into that sort of thing, I mean, it'd be a good drinking game would be you have to drink every time someone said, "Siga is going to California." Okay? Or every time the word California or the word Topanga is mentioned, then you gotta do a shot. How about that? And the weird thing is they got Judd Nelson, biggest name they could think of maybe, that would work for what they would pay. And then they had to accommodate him. So, like I said, I think his scenes were probably shot in Los Angeles, which accounts for the L.A. crew and the L.A. stuff that's in the credits. The rest of it's shot in gorgeous Iceland, obviously, and it's just beautiful. But then they have the closed down sets, and that's where Judd Nelson shows up. And Judd Nelson, bless his heart, I've always liked him as an actor. I mean, even when he was doing these really bad action roles, I always liked him. I thought he was a fair actor, and he had a lot of goodwill from those John Hughes movies. But, now he just looks like your social studies teacher from 11th grade. And he's just, I got to remember, this will be good. This will be good on the radio show. Yes, I can start talking about Judd Nelson. Maybe I should do that. Just do my little Judd Nelson thing. And Judd Nelson, please don't come and beat me up, because I'm much bigger than I appear here. I am 6'2", and I'm not even as old as you. I don't think. So anyway, but Judd's fine in this. It's just interesting that they have this quirky little movie with really bad music, and they set it in Iceland, and there's another film that I'll take you there. Yeah, it's kind of a musical, and you should check that out if you're into punk rock and all this stuff. I haven't seen it yet. I just know that it's coming out on VOD today and stuff like that. So anyway, the other thing I want to bring you back up to speed on is, yes, the people from Infidel did get in touch with me. They sent me an email going, "Did you ever get the screener?" And if you paid attention last week, you know we never got the screener, so that's why we didn't review your movie. But if I see something, if I see these people in their publicity materials talking about how nobody wanted to review their movie, I will call BS so quick, because we really wanted to review it, Jim Caviezel. We really did. And, it's fair. If they don't want you to review it, it's fair. That's not, like, we don't have any right of subpoena. We can't go get these films and make them show us to us before they put them on the screens in your local theaters. And if they don't want to do that, they don't have to. That's fine. But just don't play this game of, They played us because they got at least 2 photos in last week's section. And they got me talking about it, both in the video and in the new movies column. So, they win. That's fine. That's fine. Anybody see Infidel, you could actually tell me what it's like. Again, comments, anything you want to say. Nobody ever comments on these things because nobody ever watches this deep. But that's all right. I still get paid. And we're going to start putting these back on Blood, Dirt, and Angels real soon, because I don't see any reason why we can't, even though they told us not to do it. It seems like it works. Doesn't seem to screw anything up. So we're going to do that. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. Snow Babies. Iceland is Best. Boy, I reviewed a bunch of stuff. Iceland is Best, Snow Babies, the 2 Richard Jenkins movies, and probably something else. So I've done my half hour's work of work here. You take care. And when you go out, wear your mask. See, wear your mask.